Welcome to the Effortless Swimming podcast. My guest today is Aidan, who is over in New Zealand. So, Aidan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We've been exchanging emails for a little while, and you sent a recent one saying that you'd made a pretty good, you'd hit a PB for your 100 freestyle
Yep.
after going through the 8 weeks of the 8 week faster freestyle course. And I think you're probably, in the upper end in terms of speed with compared to most of the people I tend to work with, which we'll talk about in a second. But it was a really good PB that you hit. And I thought there's probably a lot that people could take away from what you've done to make such a good improvement. So, let's just start off with what was the goal that you had in mind, and then what did you hit with your 100 time?
Yeah, so I didn't prior to doing the 8 weeks. I'd done the 5 day catch challenge. I think it was that you've got there, and that was good. And so I understood some of the basics of what you were doing there. I didn't have a time in mind. I'm a recreational swimmer for the most part, but so prior to coming into the 8 week challenge, I'd done, I think my best was 1 minute 18 for 100 meters, and um, in one of the last sessions, I think it was session 1, week 8 of the 8 week challenge, I hit a 112. Um, but that was after doing, 30, 50-meter sprints. So I think if I'd done it before that, I would have had a bit more stamina and been able to keep going. So I think in my own mind, I wanted to get under 1 minute 15. And now I'm sort of like, I know I could do under 1 minute 10 if I didn't do it after a whole bunch of other tiring sets. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
fantastic.
was absolutely stoked. It was a quite a big improvement.
And what was it over those eight? Was there anything over those 8 weeks that stood out to you that you maybe didn't know before and you introduced into your stroke?
It was really, every sort of piece of the puzzle was sort of building on the last piece. So I can't really pinpoint one thing. There were obvious parts where, I thought the power diamond was really good, and obviously we spent a bit of time on that. I found, stroke rate, really upping my stroke rate, and the final week there was um, big. They had a big impact as well. I think everything it just sort of built on one another. So starting with some of the basics and sort of building on that to gradually get faster. And it wasn't like I was constantly sort of watching my speed each week. In fact, I really didn't do that at all. I just noticed that gradually I was starting to get a better rhythm going. And then, right at the end, sort of working on the rhythm of the kick. I mean, I think that was sort of the icing on the cake.
And with the power diamond, was that before, or you just hadn't considered that part of the stroke much?
I I was already trying to use my arm like a paddle. However, I don't know if I was going sort of deep enough, and no one had ever taught me sort of the right sort of shape there. So I may have been doing it a bit too far out to the side or something. So I just didn't have the technical knowledge prior, basically.
And if you're a new listener, if you this is into one of our podcasts, that the power diamond it's a part of the freestyle stroke that when the hand's passing underneath the shoulder, where we basically want the arm to create this half triangle if you're looking from in front of someone. So the elbow's pointing to the side, the finger pointing down, it makes like a half triangle that's on the side. And if you had both arms there, it would look like a diamond shape. That's the power diamond we refer to. And most people tend to be too straight with their arm as they're going through that part. Or a lot of people, their hand is out really wide. And so get that diamond shape, it's better in terms of using back and shoulders better, the stronger muscles through the back and shoulders. And also that direction of force is more behind you instead of sometimes off to the side or coming underneath the body. So that's why we want to get that power diamond. And then the stroke rate, was that something you had thought about much as you'd swum, or it was a fairly new
It
focus
wasn't
concept?
something that I'd thought about. Obviously, when I want to swim faster, I move my arms faster. But it wasn't something that I'd ever really paid that much attention to in terms of counting it and monitoring it. So that's still something that I'm coming to grips with and playing around with. I'm looking forward to doing. You had a test there where you could find out, your optimum stroke rate by doing different series of 100 meters at different stroke rates. So that's actually what I'm going to do next time I'm in the pool. But I have been watching that over the past week, and I think when I did my last personal best, I was probably in the high 70s in terms of stroke rate. But when I'm cruising, I found that I'm probably sort of maybe like high 50s.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Like it's going to change with the different speed that you're going. It's an important one to consider. And I don't talk a lot about it. Like most of the stuff I talk about is it's technical things. But then once we've got that technique in place, stroke rate is it's the other half of the stroke. So it's an important one to look at. And I had someone tell me last week, I think it was, and they said I'm around 2 minutes 45 or 2 minutes 50 per 100. And one of the things I mentioned to them without seeing their stroke is I want to just check what your stroke rate is, because all the time, if someone's around that speed, their stroke rate is probably in the mid to high 30s or really low 40s, which is super slow. And like, doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are, you're going to be quite limited with the speed you can achieve if it's too low. Obviously, we don't want to start spinning the wheels and going too quickly either. But yeah, it's finding that sweet spot between the two. And it's good to like, how do you measure your stroke rate? Have you got a Garmin?
So I've swam with a Garmin watch for quite a few years now, but I treated myself to the Form goggles recently.
Yeah.
So I swim with those now, and I can see it sort of in real time. But prior to that, I'd used the Garmin watch, and that was always pretty good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think the Form goggles. I don't look at it. I don't often see it at the time, but I do like to look back if I've done a set, and it's really interesting because before that, like my stroke, what it was, I was never really aware of it at the time. But I look back at a set with, it was like 2 400s. One was at like 70%. One was at 80. One was at 90%. And I look back at the stroke rate, and it was originally 61 for the first one, and then 60 stroke rate for the second one. And you can see that the distance per stroke shortened. I can't remember. Let's say it was like 1.7 to 1.58 or something. But the overall time for that 90% one was quicker because that stroke rate was a little bit quicker. And so it's just interesting to see the combination of the two and how that translates to speed. And it's really good just for building that awareness around what an impact the stroke rate can have, provided that you keep some sort of distance per stroke. How do you feel in that fast 100? Did you feel like you had a pretty good hold of the water still?
I felt like I was really moving, and it was the fastest I'd sort of swam. So I felt like my arms were moving pretty fast. I was, in the high 70s for my stroke rate, which is a lot higher than what I would normally do if I'm cruising. But yeah, I felt good. I felt like I was catching the water really well. So that's why I think it was a lot of these ingredients that you'd been talking about sort of building and coming together to sort of work in a cohesive manner. Whereas in the past, maybe, I wouldn't have been able to tie things together quite so cohesively. It hasn't just been, the one-off speed though, because I feel like that's almost, it doesn't always also sort of paint the whole picture. It's more about now, if I'm swimming and I'm just cruising, I'll always be doing less than 1:30.
Right.
There would be like a 1:30 per 100 would be like a warm-up swim almost now. Whereas in the past, it probably would have, 1:30 would have been a, maybe decent swim. So I think basically there's a lot of efficiencies that have come into my swimming now.
Is there a bit of a checklist that you end up going through when you are swimming? A bit of a technique checklist that you go through in your mind?
I don't really go through it. I don't think so. I think I'm always just consciously thinking about all of the lessons, really. So I don't, that's something I could add in and just sort of work through it. Just thinking right back to the start as we're talking here, one of the things that I used to do prior to coming through the program was I always used to breathe through my mouth, in and out through my mouth. So one of the first things I changed was breathing out through my nose. And I felt like that probably helped control my heart rate and keep a bit calmer in the water as well. So lots of little things.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? There's just so much to think about, and stuff like that can be pretty quickly. I think like the breathing, I'd say like a week or two into it, most people can change that as a habit. It starts to become natural. And so then you can just keep adding one thing on top of another. And over time you get quicker. And I like your approach too. Like it sounded as though you weren't concerned about when the speed would come. You just follow the program, and then eventually the speed came. And I think over the course of 8 weeks, like it's a good time frame, be able to make some things pretty close to permanent, and it's enough time to see a difference. And with the 5-day catch challenge, we've had so many people make improvements in the 5 days, but to make it stick and to make it permanent, it's going to take longer than those 5 days. So that's why I think the 8 week good time frame there.
I think it was actually quite good for me that I did the 5 days first. That was sort of how I found out about it all. So then when I came to the 8 days, it gave me like an in-depth. So the 5 days was giving me like a 10,000 foot viewpoint of, these are some of the key points of the stroke. But when I got into the week by week, 8 week, I could really dive deeper, and I really enjoyed that. And I had time to practice them and sort of build those habits in. So I think that was quite good.
And are you training with a squad, or you go?
No, I've just been training on my own for the past year. Prior to that, when I lived in Argentina, I was training with a team, mainly triathletes. But here I've just been training twice a week on my own. And I think that's been another reason why it's been good just to have a plan served up to me, and I can just go and be a good student and follow the drills.
Yeah, that's great. I was chatting to someone on the phone this week, and he was basically saying, look, I haven't got anything on for like another 6 months in terms of racing. And so like, I just want something I don't want to have to think, because I've got a lot of other stuff on. I just want to be able to go to the pool and follow like a warm up and workout. And then that's it, and that's why I put those main sets in there and the suggested warm up and stuff. So you can basically like watch the video and then not have to think too much about what you're going to do, because it's all there. And I mean, I'm the same. I like to be told what to do sometimes. It's like, just, leave the thought out of it. The only thing you need to think of is technical things.
Yeah. And I was going through it at 2 sessions a week. So it actually took me longer than 8 weeks. So, I would just, 2 sessions 1 week, 2 sessions the next, and, each week had 3 sessions. So it just maybe it ended up taking me 11 or 12 weeks, but that was fine.
Yeah, cool. That's to hear. And so from here, you feel like 10 is a possibility now, and where do you feel like you could find
I know it's a possibility, because when I did my 112, I just ran out of gas, and using my goggles and my watch, it tells me the time on each length. So each progressive length was literally 1 second slower. So my second length of 4 was 1 second slower. My third length was another second slower. And my fourth length was, I think, another second slower. And it was just because I'd done 30 sets of 50 prior to that, and tried to maintain a decent tempo for those. So I was already at the end of a long workout. So I'm pretty confident that if I hadn't done all of that prior, that I would be able to do 110. And for me, I mean, that's just sounds crazy. It still sounds crazy. I think the crazy thing for me is, it's not that I've just started swimming. I have been swimming for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years or something, but I've just been through your program and seen quite a dramatic gain. It's like I had sort of plateaued prior to doing your training, and then having gone through your training, I sort of blasted through it. Now maybe I'm approaching a new plateau, and it's just quite satisfying to hit some new numbers.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I think swimming's so good, because you've got that. It's not like maybe gymnastics or like surfing or something where it's more subjective. Swimming's like, this is the time you're doing, or these are the times that you're holding, and you know whether or not you're getting quicker. So that's why, I think it's good to be able to see the data to back up feeling better in the water, which is really nice.
Yeah, I also like that. For me, it was about, I'm not going to break any world records or anything, but I'm still being able to say, oh, wow, I've improved 10%. And I think that anyone swimming in the pool can say the same thing. It doesn't matter what speed you're going, but you can see, wow, I think the efficiencies were really amazing. Like you said, I think it was when we were talking about the Serape effect. That's something that might make you sort of 1% or 2% faster, kind of a thing. And that's great, because that's a second for me. Over almost, or a couple of, it could be a couple of seconds even over 100 meters. So those little efficiencies building on one another, and swimming faster with less energy being used, it feels good.
And do you what do you enjoy most about swimming? What do you really sort of get a kick out of? What keeps you coming back?
I think for me, it's almost like I get into a very sort of almost sort of meditative state. It's keeps me sane. It's a good break from office work and family life and so forth. And I don't get injured.
Yeah.
I used to do quite a bit of running and started getting sore knees. And at the moment, I can't actually run very much with my knees, but I can swim and I don't get injured. Anytime I go on holiday or vacation, if I'm around water, I'll be straight out into the water. So I just think it's really good. It's just, I think I just like everything about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. And if someone's listening and they feel like they are injured because of swimming, it's worthwhile filming yourself, because the amount of people who have come to clinics and they've had a niggle in their shoulder, it's so often it's caused by technique. There certainly can be other things. Like for me personally, I once had like a sore shoulder for a couple of weeks because of how I was sitting at my computer on my laptop. Like it was just the way my shoulder was. I think it was like my lower trap or rhomboid, I think it was. It wasn't because of how I was at the computer, but there's a lot of times where it's just technical. So it's worth getting that filmed and having someone just to look at. But that's the thing about swimming, isn't it? It's just so great to be able to just, yeah, you can do it for forever. And I've had people contact me in their like 70s, some in their I think 80s as well, saying, look, I'm going through the Catch Challenge or going through the 8-week course, and will this be relevant to me? And it's like, how good's that? Like when you're 17, 80, you can still be swimming.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I see older people in the pool all the time. I'm like, well, I hope I'm still able to swim like you when I'm that age and stuff. But yeah, I've never been injured from swimming. I've been injured from lots of other things, but swimming seems to be the one thing that hasn't injured me. So touch wood.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, how you made such a good improvement over the last couple of months. And yeah, wish you all the best. I can't wait to hear once you get under that 110. And
Yeah, I'll let you
see
know
what
for
you can go from
sure.
there. Oh,
No,
I'd
it's been
love to hear.
fantastic, and I love the program, and I'm looking forward to working through more of the programs in there, and getting my stroke analysed and stuff as well. I know you do that, so I think that would be hugely beneficial for me at this stage, just to maybe improve a little bit more. So awesome, thanks.
Yeah, all that improvement without having any videoing done is great. So there's certainly some other things that'll be there once we do some video. So yeah, looking forward to
Cool.
it. Thanks, Aidan.
Thanks.